Lovely. Yeah, so John Vervaeke obviously coined or became well-known, certainly in the little circles that I operate in. He makes a really important point that what he's talking about in terms of the meaning crisis is a reframing. Like, people are seeking the meaning of life on the one hand, and they're gripping it and living it in ways that are fundamentally unsatisfying. And what he said, actually, what the task fundamentally is about finding meaning in life. Okay? So if one of the first issues is, it's not so much resolving what the ultimate purpose of the universe is, at least from John, and I support this. But the real question, fundamental question, is what's meaning in life? Okay? And this is, what do you have contact with that's real, that's true, good, and beautiful, that makes all of the annoyances of life, which are inevitable, and the suffering, the fact we're all going to die, worth it? That feels that fundamental engagement. And he's arguing that we're facing a crisis because we've lost a lot of the old narrative that gave us some answers to the meaning of life. That now has been obliterated, but we haven't situated ourselves to afford us a meaning in life. Okay? All right. So, and then we see underneath the meaning crisis is an understandable then mental health crisis. Okay? All right. So a mental health crisis then at a evidence level, I just point to the numbers of individuals that are not satisfied with life, engaged in suicidal ideation, anxiety, depression, etc. And those now in our youth, those are skyrocketing by far to never seen. So I would say it's just an empirical fact. We can decide what's the best way to frame it, but it's an empirical fact that there's skyrocketing levels of anxiety and depression and suicidal behavior in our youth. Okay. And that's sad, because that's diagnostic of suffering. And then we ask, well, why is that the case? Okay. Well, there's a huge number of possible answers. I'll just give you one and we'll see where to go. Okay. Remember I talked about the influence matrix. Okay. So the influence matrix, in fact, it took me a little while to decipher that the heart of the influence matrix is called the black line. That means what you're tracking in the world. And it's got two sides to it. One is social influence, I mentioned. So social influence is the capacity to move other people in accordance with your interests. Okay? It's instrumental. Okay? It's like, hey. The other is relational value. That's being seen, known, and valued by important others. Okay? Let's just take that. What we have created with capitalism, and then especially into social media, okay, is basically a dominant form of social influence as the primary capital. How much money do you have? How much status do you have? How many followers do you have? Okay. In other words, what we have highlighted as desirable is high social influence, stripping the structure for relational value, to be seen, known, and valued in the intimate, embodied, real world that you would normally encounter over living with people for a long period of time. So now we can isolate kids in their rooms, on their screens, trying to get access to likes and attention and watching the influencers, notice the term, influencers, right? And even if you're an influencer, guess what? You have audience capture, meaning that you get influenced because you have a nice body or you do something really weird, and then there's fun, and now you have influence, and now to get influence, you have to be that way, regardless of what your heart is. And so now across many, many different domains, we've split out social influence as an instrumental, cut it off from relational value, and then gave people either the option to have no social influence and feel like shit, or have social influence but essentially be an imposter and a slave to what the categories are and feel like shit. Not a good option, okay? So that's just one example about once you have this lens to diagnose, oh my God, our hearts need to be seen, known, and valued by important others. We better create a world where kids are socialized not just to know propositionally what to do in the world so they get a job. We better create a world where families and communities are bringing kids in the world so that the first issue, the first psychological nourishment that we are attending to is to the extent to which those kids are seen, known, and valued by important others. And every step of the way has got to be structured to cultivate the seen, known, and valued. And if we misconstrue seen, known, and valued for social influence and getting money to have a job to move other people around, we have fundamentally played with the soul of our human children. and we have fundamentally misconstrued its nature as an instrumental structure as opposed to something that actually is about being in the world in right connection as a real human being with unique capacities and attributes and embodied in a way that needs to be loved.
Yeah, I think you're really hitting the nail on the head with this framing. And this is kind of showing how you can use something like this piece of the theory, which is the influence matrix, to look at the meaning crisis and to see that there's social influence and relational value, and it's out of whack, it's imbalanced, and we're kind of wired to need a high level of relational value, and now we're kind of neglecting that, not getting that, and going after social influence exclusively, and that's not able to fulfill us. So it's really interesting how you use that to it seems more like a grounded and practical example, and I'm